There are moments in life when our minds and souls genuinely crave stillness, a clear sense of direction, and food for thought. These are the times when we need to sort through the tangles and confusion that can build up inside us. This audio material isn't a magic wand, a secret recipe, or a shortcut to instant success. What you'll find here is something different entirely. A deep dive into the world of reflection. This journey is built upon the fundamental principles that Napoleon Hill spent decades uncovering as he observed the patterns of prosperity, human behavior, and the very makeup of the human mind. As you listen, don't anticipate miracles. Instead, look for clarity. Don't search for ready-made answers. Seek understanding. True transformation begins when you start viewing your life with greater awareness, a deeper sense of responsibility, and a more focused purpose. Give yourself the gift of immersing yourself in this material at a relaxed pace. Simply allow the ideas to gently work their way through you while your mind rests. For many, this simple evening ritual of listening, reflecting, and absorbing becomes the pivotal turning point that leads to a more conscious, more disciplined, and ultimately, a more prosperous life. Before we venture deeper into this quiet space where new neural pathways are formed, take a moment to perform one small yet profoundly important action. This is your personal contract with yourself, a public declaration of your commitment to change. Please, share in the comments below this video the phrase that will serve as your anchor. Today marks the beginning of my journey of inner renewal. These 6 words are more than just text. They are a signal to your reticular activating system, indicating that your focus is shifting. Let others witness your intention and allow their words of encouragement to become part of your new foundation. And please, give this video a like. Do this not for the sake of statistics, but to ensure this beacon of light reaches those who, just like you right now, are searching for a way out of the labyrinth of weariness. Your like is a gesture of solidarity, a way to help the platform's algorithms connect with those who are ready for this transformation. Take a deep breath, and let's begin. When you settle down to rest and engage with material like this, something remarkably simple yet incredibly powerful happens. Your brain finally begins to slow down. Instead of endlessly replaying the day's worries, it shifts into a calmer, more receptive state, ready to organize your thoughts. It's in this state that certain principles become much clearer, as they are no longer battling the mental clutter that so often consumes us during our waking hours. Napoleon Hill consistently emphasized that prosperity isn't a matter of chance. Rather, it's the outcome of a well-aligned mindset, focused attention, and deliberate effort. When you absorb carefully crafted thoughts on discipline, purpose, and behavior, especially during moments of relaxation, you create internal space to reevaluate what has transpired, what you truly desire, and precisely what adjustments are needed. It's akin to realigning your perspective on life, revisiting your core beliefs, and preparing your inner self for more effective action the following day. It's important to recognize that simply listening to this kind of content before sleep won't instantly transform anyone. What brings about change is repetition, habit, and a willingness to reflect. Each phrase you absorb before drifting off isn't an attempt to persuade you of something. It simply offers a fresh perspective, a different way of looking at the patterns that shape your actions. Gradually, these new insights begin to influence how you think, how you react, and how you make decisions. Through this process, something significant starts to emerge, an awareness of your own potential. Many individuals go through life with dormant abilities, not due to a lack of talent, but because they haven't created the moments for self-examination needed to discover what can truly be cultivated. As you engage with ideas, grounded in real experience and structured thoughtfully, you'll start to notice that many perceived limitations, those you believed insurmountable, were actually just distorted perceptions formed over years without critical thought. This is precisely where material like this reveals its value. It acts as a kind of mental mirror, exposing automatic behavioral patterns you might never have consciously noticed before. A single word, a phrase, or an example can spark a new understanding, not because it possesses some mystical quality, but because it was the missing piece of the puzzle in your own worldview. Such an insight, arriving at the opportune moment, has the power to fundamentally alter how you perceive challenges, opportunities, and responsibilities. Continue listening, calmly. Allow the ideas to settle within your mind. Resist the urge to artificially impose specific interpretations on yourself. Don't expect immediate sensations or set unrealistic expectations. Simply absorb, reflect, and permit your own understanding to unfold naturally, at your own pace and according to your personal level of maturity. This is the most reliable and authentic path to any process of growth. As you delve deeper into this practice of mindful listening, something almost inevitable occurs. Your attention becomes more discerning. You begin to more accurately identify what is beneficial and what merely occupies space in your consciousness. This refinement is one of the most valuable outcomes of such a practice, as many of the difficulties we face stem not from a lack of capability, but from the sheer volume of distractions to which we mindlessly succumb. When you fill your mind with coherent ideas, especially during periods of rest, you cultivate an internal filter that diminishes the impact of things that hold no real significance for your life. And this is incredibly important because prosperity, in its broadest sense, hinges on direction. It's not solely about money, but also about energy, time, focus, and choice. To prosper means to intelligently organize your existence, discarding what hinders you and strengthening what propels you forward. Napoleon Hill often spoke of this. The mind needs a purpose, and that purpose must be clear enough for you to recognize it amidst the daily chaos. Without this clarity, any direction may seem acceptable, but none will yield consistent results. By listening to this material, you are, in essence, opening up space for this clarity to emerge. With each principle explained, you are not given a rigid rule, but rather an invitation to examine your own behavioral patterns. You might start to notice, for instance, where you tend to lose energy, where you persistently tread unproductive paths, where you squander talent, and where you falter due to a lack of self-confidence. These are simple observations, but collectively, they have the potential to completely reshape your approach to life. Another crucial point: listening before sleep grants you access to a more receptive layer of your psyche. This isn't mysticism, it's biology. The brain naturally transitions into a state of reduced resistance, where memories, interpretations, and ideas are reordered. In such a state, constructive messages are more easily retained, not as directives, but as possibilities. And the moment you clearly perceive a possibility, behavior begins to shift almost spontaneously, as your mind starts to recognize alternatives that were previously obscured by the daily routine. Over time, this practice strengthens your inner compass. You awaken with more organized thoughts, clearer priorities, and a greater inclination to do what is necessary. It's a form of quiet recalibration that may not be outwardly dramatic, but it profoundly changes how you meet each day. And it is this subtle, gradual, and continuous transformation that, in time, yields consistent results. Therefore, the advice is simple. Just listen. Do not expect to feel anything extraordinary. Do not search for signs. Do not try to interpret every detail. Allow the material to serve its natural function, to stimulate your thinking, broaden your perception, and fortify your mindset. When you establish this habit, change ceases to be a distant possibility and becomes the natural consequence of your own internal evolution. As days pass, something interesting happens. You'll begin to notice that certain thoughts that once felt heavy or confusing gradually lose their power. This isn't because they vanish, but because you start to better understand their origins. This is one of the greatest benefits of saturating your mind with structured and reflective content. You stop reacting automatically to stimuli and begin to grasp why you react in a particular way. From this understanding, decisions that once required considerable effort now come naturally, almost as a logical extension of the new insights you are developing. This process also unlocks a quality that Napoleon Hill considered foundational: self-discipline. Not the rigid kind imposed by pressure and guilt, but the internal discipline that stems from purpose. When you understand what you wish to achieve and recognize the value of your choices, self-discipline transforms from an obligation into a tool. It's the ability to direct your energy toward what matters and resist what pulls you off course. This strength doesn't manifest overnight, but it quietly grows as you nourish your mind with ideas that reinforce your identity.
With repeated listening to this audio material, particularly in the evening, your brain begins to fine-tune small details in your daily routine and actions. You start to identify behaviors that were previously invisible. Minor acts of procrastination, persistent distractions, energy-draining emotional patterns, limiting beliefs you've unconsciously repeated. None of these factors is decisive on its own, but together they shape your daily reality. Once you become aware of them, a process of replacement naturally begins. More functional behaviors take the place of habits that no longer serve you. And this is how, slowly and consistently, a prosperity-oriented mindset is built. Not one characterized by excess, but true prosperity, grounded in clarity, stability, purpose, and conscious action. Each evening you dedicate to this practice, you are training your mind to think more strategically, more systematically, and with less susceptibility to external noise. You begin to see opportunities where you previously saw only uncertainty, and to interpret challenges as natural steps in a process rather than insurmountable barriers. Another significant aspect is that listening to such material during periods of rest reinforces the connection between calm and productivity. Many mistakenly believe that prosperity arises from constant intensity, yet Napoleon Hill repeatedly demonstrated that true effectiveness is born from mental equilibrium. A hurried mind makes impulsive decisions. A focused mind makes wise ones. And when you conclude your day by absorbing thought-provoking ideas, you awaken with a more organized mind, less overwhelmed by noise, and far more prepared to act with intention. This internal alignment bolsters another crucial quality: the capacity to take ownership of your choices. This is a central tenet of Napoleon Hill's philosophy. Prosperity is not a matter of luck, privilege, or a gift. It is a consequence. And that consequence emerges from how you think, how you interpret the world, and how you respond to every situation you encounter. By allowing ideas to resonate within you each evening, you daily affirm your responsibility for your outcomes. Continue listening peacefully. Do not attempt to rush the process. Growth that truly endures is not that which happens rapidly, but that which occurs consistently. As your mind absorbs these principles, you'll notice that the way you speak, the way you think, and the way you present yourself begins to change organically, without forced effort or ostentation. You simply start to move in harmony with the person you truly aspire to be. Over time, you'll realize that this evening habit serves more than just calming your mind. It also reshapes your relationship with your own thoughts.
Ideas that once seemed distant begin to make sense. Concepts that appeared theoretical start to fit into your real-life experiences. This happens because, in a state of repose, you're not trying to dispute, argue, or analyze everything simultaneously. You simply accept, observe, and allow your mind to sort through what holds meaning. This quiet process is far more powerful than it might seem, because it is in stillness that the mind can discern the essential from the trivial. Another important shift begins to emerge: the way you interpret the future. Many people live trapped by a limited vision, assuming tomorrow will simply be a repetition of today. When you engage with material based on principles of thought, purpose, and action, this constricted view starts to broaden, not because anything external has changed, but because you become aware of possibilities that previously lay beyond your field of vision. It is this internal expansion that initiates the process of creating new opportunities. From this widening perspective, you begin to cultivate what Napoleon Hill considered indispensable: emotional direction. Most individuals react to events without control, swayed by impulse, fear, or inner turmoil. By strengthening your mind with structured reflection, you gain the ability to guide your reactions, and this ability changes everything. You cease to be a victim of external chaos and begin to influence your surroundings through your own decisions. This transition from a reactive person to a proactive leader is one of the clearest markers of mental maturity. This strengthening also impacts how you handle adversity. When you have a trained mind, challenges cease to be adversaries and become indicators. They reveal where you need to grow, what needs adjustment, and where emotional vulnerability or a lack of organization still exists. Instead of feeling defeated by obstacles, you begin to use them as measuring tools. Each difficulty highlights a point where your growth is still under construction. This more mature interpretation is one of the great pillars of true prosperity. Another significant effect is a change in the quality of your attention. A mind trained to reflect, observe, and absorb gradually sheds behaviors that do not serve a higher purpose. Things that once pilfered your time and energy lose their hold. You begin to reduce emotional leakage, excess distractions, and the repetition of unproductive patterns. This process requires not brute force, but clarity. When you know where you are going, what does not serve you simply loses its significance. And this clarity, in turn, directly impacts your ability to act. An overloaded mind struggles with decision-making. An organized mind makes decisions quickly and confidently. Listening to this material at night helps establish this quiet order. Your thoughts begin to align, your goals become clearer, and you start to embrace mindsets that previously seemed difficult. This isn't because things have become easier, but because there is now a congruence between what you think, what you feel, and what you do. With this congruence comes another essential element: consistency. Napoleon Hill reiterated this countless times. Nothing replaces consistency. It is the central axis that differentiates intention from results. And as your mind begins to work in your favor, you naturally develop consistent behaviors that transform projects into accomplishments and desires into tangible achievements. This is a slow but exceedingly powerful build-up because it originates from within, not from external pressure. Continue absorbing peacefully. Every night, every reflection, every phrase you hear here adds another step to this process of internal maturation. Nothing happens instantly, but everything has a cumulative effect. And once you grasp this principle, your growth ceases to be accidental and becomes a continuous journey. As this process becomes a part of your routine, you'll begin to notice subtle shifts in how you respond to the external world. Situations that once triggered irritation, anxiety, or uncertainty are now analyzed with greater distance and more maturity.
This ability to create space between what is happening and how you respond is one of the most striking indicators of emotional development. And it arises precisely because your mind, nourished by consistent reflection, no longer operates solely on automatic pilot. This new mental stance also enhances the quality of decisions you make throughout the day. Instead of acting under the influence of stress, haste, or the expectations of others, you begin to consider your own values, your goals, and your priorities. This shift might seem minor, but it completely alters the trajectory of your life. Decisions made with intention tend to yield far more stable results than those driven by fleeting impulses. As you listen to these principles, one crucial thing takes shape within you: inner alignment. And this alignment directly influences how you position yourself in the world. Inconsistent individuals live in conflict with themselves, desiring what they don't support with action, promising changes they never deliver, and setting goals they abandon after a few days. Consistent people, even if they don't have all the answers, know how to align intentions and actions. And it is this alignment that builds trust, strength, and self-assurance. This quiet process also strengthens your ability to maintain focus. We live in an environment saturated with distractions, and attention is one of the most valuable tools you possess. As your mind becomes accustomed to content that requires reflection, it gradually loses interest in the superficial. This natural reorganization of attention is one reason why more conscious individuals achieve more with less effort. They don't have more hours in the day, they simply utilize the available hours more strategically. Over time, you'll notice your thoughts becoming less scattered. Ideas emerge with greater clarity, and decisions become more rational. Emotions rebalance more quickly. This doesn't mean the absence of difficulties, but it does signify a greater capacity to interpret them. You stop being a victim of emotional fluctuations and become someone who manages their mental state. And this competence, though invisible, is one of the cornerstones of personal growth and prosperity. Another significant aspect that begins to develop is the ability to realistically visualize the future. This isn't about fantasy or exaggerated expectations, but rather a balanced vision of what can be built. When you habitually think clearly, you start to see pathways where you once saw only obstacles. This capacity to identify opportunities is a clear sign of a trained mind and becomes increasingly pronounced as you immerse yourself in this material. Furthermore, you begin to cultivate a healthier relationship with setbacks. Instead of viewing them as fixed endpoints, you begin to see them as integral parts of a larger journey. This shift in perspective gently eases the emotional pressure and helps prevent you from abandoning your goals at the first sign of difficulty. As Napoleon Hill wisely pointed out, temporary setbacks are among life's greatest teachers, and nearly all significant achievements emerge from periods of frustration or trial. When you truly grasp this, your entire approach to facing challenges transforms. These principles, when revisited and absorbed over time, forge a solid sense of personal confidence. It's not the superficial self-assurance built on empty platitudes, but a genuine belief rooted in honestly observing your own progress. Each night, as you internalize these ideas, you subtly refine the details of your thinking. These cumulative adjustments build a robust foundation for emotional resilience, mental clarity, and practical determination. Keep listening and allow these reflections to settle into your quiet moments. Don't try to force the process. Simply open yourself to the possibility of thinking more clearly, acting more effectively, and seeing further ahead. Every layer of understanding you build now will serve as a support for the decisions you'll make in the future. As you progress in strengthening your mind, you'll start to realize that many of the boundaries you perceived as real were actually just echoes of past interpretations, often formed during times of vulnerability, haste, or confusion.
When you offer your mind well-considered thoughts, especially as you drift off to sleep, it begins to re-examine those interpretations and replace them with more solid ones, better aligned with the person you aspire to become. This internal renovation doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds gradually, night after night, until certain fears, doubts, and beliefs begin to lose their grip. This process also encourages you to value inner control over external circumstances. Those who constantly try to manipulate their surroundings drain their energy, while those who learn to adjust themselves discover their true strength. By engaging with material focused on mindset, discipline, and purpose, you reinforce daily the understanding that the true catalyst for change always resides within. It doesn't matter what's happening externally. How you interpret events and how you choose to respond dictate your next steps. This realization brings a sense of stability, even amidst challenging times. And this very stability paves the way for another crucial element: emotional intelligence. So many people navigate their lives largely driven by their emotions, often without even realizing it. They react based on how they feel rather than what logically makes sense. By listening to well-reasoned reflections, you learn to acknowledge your feelings without letting them dictate who you are or how you behave. You become someone who can feel deeply, yet act with deliberate reason. This blend of conscious emotion and applied intellect cultivates an inner strength that few individuals truly develop. Here's another important point. As you consistently build up your mind, you begin to recognize that flourishing isn't a static state, but rather a dynamic behavior. It's about how you position yourself, how you make decisions, how you manage your time, and how you honor your own potential. Once you understand this, your actions become more purposeful. Minor deviations that once went unnoticed now become glaringly obvious. Wasted energy becomes apparent, and actions you previously considered normal start to feel out of step with the future you're trying to build. This natural refinement also influences your choices. You become more discerning about what you consume, whom you associate with, where you direct your attention, and which paths you ultimately choose. This more intentional selection creates a much more fertile internal environment for growth. And it's this environment, not pre-packaged phrases, external promises, or illusory expectations, that truly fosters genuine development. What you cultivate in quiet reflection shapes your public actions. As this inner alignment strengthens, you'll experience a growing sense of autonomy. This isn't about needing no one, but about not being emotionally dependent on circumstances or external validation to move forward. You begin to act from a place of conviction rather than from what's expected of you. This mental independence is a hallmark of high achievers, as it allows them to remain steadfast even when their surroundings become turbulent. Another benefit that develops over time is your ability to maintain inner quietude. This isn't a superficial silence, but a deep stillness where your mind isn't engaged in internal conflict. This quietude arises when you stop feeding thoughts that weaken you and start nurturing those that stabilize you. It is in this stillness that crucial decisions become clear. It is in this stillness that you understand what truly matters. It is in this stillness that you see the next step with sharp clarity. When you listen to this kind of content during your downtime, you create a mental space that few people experience. A space where the mind isn't chasing urgency, but calmly absorbing ideas. This state is ideal for reassessing priorities, reinterpreting experiences, and adjusting your course. Each night, you take a small, almost imperceptible yet cumulative step forward. This is how the mind strengthens continuously, slowly, and deeply rooting itself. Keep this habit going. Your mind will become more stable, clearer, and better equipped to generate real results. And this happens not by chance, but through deliberate construction. With the consistency of this process, you begin to notice something that few people truly grasp. A trained mind not only thinks better, it feels better.
Not in an emotional sense, but in its capacity to interpret internal sensations more clearly. Anxiety lessens not because it vanishes, but because it ceases to be a mystery. Doubt wanes not because you suddenly know everything, but because you understand that uncertainty is an inherent part of any worthwhile endeavor. This emotional maturity is born of consistency, and each night spent with this content reinforces a part of it. Another significant shift occurs in your relationship with your own goals. Many abandon their plans because they build goals without an emotional foundation, fueled only by fleeting enthusiasm. When that enthusiasm fades, the goal collapses. What you're doing by repeatedly engaging with this material is different. You are building beliefs. Beliefs are more powerful than motivation. Motivation fluctuates. Beliefs endure and are formed gradually. As you absorb the principles, ponder them, and begin to see your choices more deeply, another capacity almost naturally emerges as your mind strengthens: the ability to view your own life as a process. Those who don't grasp this get stuck in immediate expectations, believing everything must change rapidly to prove they're on the right track. Those who understand the process operate differently. They know that significant results are the sum of small decisions repeated with discipline. And when you embrace this logic, impatience gives way to persistence. It's at this point that you start valuing the quality of your environment, your conversations, and your influences. A strengthened mind becomes less tolerant of voices that diminish your ambitions or attempt to limit your potential. Without conscious effort, you begin to distance yourself from environments that drag you down and draw closer to people who share principles of growth, responsibility, and clarity. This shift isn't social, it's mental. You simply stop investing energy where there's no shared alignment of purpose. Furthermore, you begin to understand the role of challenges more deeply. What once seemed like an obstacle now feels more like an opportunity, a chance to demonstrate maturity and reinforce your resolve. This change in perspective reduces emotional exhaustion and enhances your ability to act with conviction, even when circumstances are less than ideal. And for Napoleon Hill, this was a sign of true inner wealth, not to be stopped by adversity, but to grow through it. Another quiet transformation occurs in how you manage your time. As your mind becomes clearer, your days gain more order. You stop spending hours on distractions that yield no benefit and begin dedicating more time to what truly matters. This happens not out of obligation, but out of understanding. Mental clarity naturally guides you toward actions that build your future, rather than those that offer only a few minutes of amusement. Alongside this adjustment in time management comes a change in how you believe in yourself. A strengthened mind doesn't seek external validation for every move. It seeks internal alignment. And when you know you're acting in accordance with your own principles, your self-belief becomes more stable. It's not the loud confidence based on appearance or comparison, but the quiet assurance born from the simple knowledge that you are doing what needs to be done. This internalized confidence reflects in your behavior when opportunities arise. Instead of hesitating, you begin to see the opportune moment more precisely. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, you learn to move forward with the resources you have. Instead of seeking guarantees, you understand that much of progress comes from action, not from certainty. This realization completely transforms your stance in the real world. Each night, each reflection, each minute spent with this material contributes to this process of strengthening. Nothing here is instantaneous, nor should it be.
It's the quiet,
gradual and continuous transformation happening within you that matters. As this process of internal reinforcement unfolds, you start to notice a natural phenomenon. Your mind begins to more easily dismiss what doesn't align with your growth. Thoughts that once dominated your reasoning start to lose their relevance. People who previously influenced your decisions have less impact, and behaviors that once seemed commonplace become irksome. It's not that you become intolerant. You simply begin to recognize more clearly anything that doesn't serve your evolution. This mental refinement also alters your perspective on effort. Many people view effort as something negative, as if any challenge is a burden or a sign that something is wrong. But by engaging with content that emphasizes the importance of internal construction, you develop a more mature relationship with work, discipline, and time. Effort ceases to be an obstacle and becomes an indicator of progress. Each step requiring commitment begins to be seen as a natural part of the process, not a punishment, but preparation. As this change solidifies, your appreciation for value also transforms. You stop seeking quick rewards and begin to see worth in longer processes, deeper projects, and choices that demand consistency. This shift is fundamental because it moves you away from the immediacy that constrains so many and closer to a select group that understands true prosperity is the result of vision and persistence. This mindset cultivates a unique kind of patience, an active patience that keeps moving forward even when results are not yet visible. Another point that begins to emerge is your ability to manage your own thoughts more skillfully. Instead of believing every thought is a truth, you start to evaluate them as mental events rather than definitions of who you are. This separation grants you immense power, the power to choose what to believe, what to focus on, and what to discard. This gradually developing capacity transforms your mind into an ally rather than a silent adversary. This inner evolution also influences your stance in life. You become more stable, more centered, and less reactive. Instead of fluctuating emotionally with every event, you begin to act from internal principles rather than immediate impulses. This emotional steadiness is perceived by those around you because it conveys confidence and depth. Emotionally mature individuals earn respect without demanding it, and this stems from an organized mind. With consistent strengthening, you also begin to recognize patterns that were previously hidden. Patterns of behavior, patterns of choice, patterns of reaction. Many of these patterns have repeated for years without your awareness. By listening to structured reflections in the evening, you create an internal space to identify these patterns, understand them, and, over time, replace them with more effective behaviors. This replacement process is gradual but incredibly powerful because it breaks cycles that once seemed unavoidable. This newfound insight also enhances your ability to see opportunities. A confused mind sees problems. A clear mind sees opportunities. Even amidst uncertainty, you begin to find pathways that previously seemed invisible. And this capacity to find opportunities, even in difficult moments, is one of the traits Napoleon Hill studied most closely in successful individuals. It is not luck, but a trained perception. Another notable change manifests in your communication. You begin to speak more precisely, more calmly, and more in alignment with the reality you wish to build. Your speech ceases to be impulsive and becomes strategic. You choose your words more carefully, avoid verbal waste, and express yourself with the clarity of someone who knows what they want. This amplifies your power of influence without needing to raise your voice or employ artificial effect. Strength comes from alignment, not intensity. As your thinking expands, you realize you're developing a deeper sense of personal responsibility. You understand that no one will live your life for you, and this realization isn't oppressive, it's liberating.
Because by taking ownership of your choices, you also take ownership of the outcomes you wish to achieve. This transforms your posture and how you navigate the world. Keep absorbing these reflections. Each night contributes to a new level of clarity, and each level of clarity opens doors you couldn't see before. Your growth is happening quietly and deeply, precisely where real change needs to occur. As you continue to absorb these principles, something increasingly evident begins to take shape. A clearer understanding of the role you play in building your own life. You realize that many situations you encounter are not just the result of your environment, but also a consequence of how you interpret them, how you respond to them, and how you position yourself before them. This understanding doesn't arise to create guilt, but to foster awareness, because only what you acknowledge can be transformed. From this awareness, you begin to grasp that growth doesn't happen in a straight line. There are days of advancement, days of stagnation, and days when you feel like you're moving backward. This is normal. Any real process of evolution is marked by fluctuations. What distinguishes those who achieve consistent results is the ability to persist, even when progress seems slow or imperceptible. It is this quiet consistency, this discrete persistence that forms the bedrock of significant change. As you become accustomed to listening to structured material before sleep, you'll notice your reflections becoming more mature. You'll stop seeking ready-made formulas and start seeking understanding. You'll stop waiting for external solutions and begin taking responsibility for the decisions that truly matter.
This shift in perspective profoundly changes your approach to goals. Instead of believing something external must happen for your life to move forward, you begin to realize that progress is directly tied to the small choices you make every day. And these small choices are fundamental. Often, a minor adjustment can change the trajectory of your life, and it's the consistency of simple refinements, repeated sequentially. Refinements in how you speak, in how you think, in how you manage your emotions. These accumulated adjustments over weeks create an internal transformation that relies not on constant motivation, but on clarity. And clarity is what grows precisely when you nourish your mind with organized ideas. Throughout this process, you also begin to develop a valuable capacity, the ability to observe your own trajectory without distortion. Most people assess their lives based on emotional impulses, exaggerating problems, downplaying achievements, and distorting their perception of progress. When you regularly engage with reflective content, your analytical capacity becomes more balanced. You start to recognize your shortcomings without self-destructing over them, and acknowledge your successes without becoming complacent. This balanced perspective is a cornerstone of emotional stability. This stability, in turn, enables you to navigate life's natural uncertainties with greater skill. You understand that not everything is within your control, but there is always something that can be done. This realization lessens the emotional burden of problems and creates space for more rational decisions. You begin to face difficulties with greater maturity, not because they become smaller, but because you become larger within. Over time, you also sense your relationship with the future evolving. The future ceases to be a source of anxiety and becomes an opportunity for construction.
Instead of imagining negative or idealized scenarios, you begin to see the future as a logical extension of today's actions. This more realistic, more mature perspective strengthens your planning ability and increases your confidence in moving forward, regardless of external circumstances. And as this process unfolds, you start to notice that the very ideas you listen to at night begin to surface spontaneously throughout your day. This isn't magic, it's repetition. The human mind learns through consistent exposure. What you listen to again and again begins to influence how you think, interpret, and act. Not because something mystical has happened, but because you are feeding your mind with content
that fosters clarity, discipline, and self-awareness. Keep listening, reflecting, and allowing yourself to mature internally at your own pace. This is the kind of evolution that doesn't depend on promises, doesn't depend on luck, doesn't depend on ideal circumstances. It depends solely on consistency and understanding. As you maintain this habit, you'll notice something fundamental beginning to occur. Your mind becomes more discerning. This doesn't mean you withdraw from the world, but you begin to filter better what truly deserves your attention. Much of the mental exhaustion people experience daily comes not from actual problems, but from an accumulation of irrelevant information, other people's opinions, and scattered thoughts. When you train your mind to reflect calmly, especially at the end of the day, you reduce this build-up and make space for clearer, more direct thinking. This mental cleansing leads to an awareness of the value of simplicity. Not superficial simplicity, but simplicity born of clarity. You're beginning to grasp that many challenges you face don't demand genius. They simply ask for a clear-eyed perspective. Similarly, a lot of the anxieties you carry aren't looking for complex solutions, but rather for firm decisions. And those doubts that hold you back? They don't require you to have all the answers, just the willingness to pick a direction and start moving. This kind of mature simplicity is one of the most telling signs of a mind that's been thoughtfully honed. Over time, this quiet process of learning also sharpens your insight into what truly propels you forward and what subtly drags you down. You'll start to spot the situations that drain your energy and the people who act like emotional anchors. At the same time, you'll gain a much clearer sense of which environments bolster your resolve, which conversations ignite your intellect, and which habits strengthen your character. This ability to identify your inner strengths and weaknesses is a profound advantage for anyone who invests in their mental landscape. This journey also fortifies your self-awareness. So many people find themselves in a state of internal conflict simply because they don't truly understand their own needs, limits, or recurring patterns of behavior. When you regularly engage with structured content, you approach yourself with a greater degree of honesty. You stop hiding behind excuses and begin to see more clearly what needs adjusting. This self-awareness doesn't breed guilt, it cultivates direction. This newfound sense of purpose then propels you toward another crucial skill, the ability to choose your battles wisely. This is where your mind expands and becomes more strategic. You shift from trying to fix everything at once to focusing on what genuinely matters. You cease wasting energy on pointless arguments and instead channel your efforts into actions that yield tangible results. This capacity to prioritize, to discern the essential from the trivial, and to maintain focus on what's most important can dramatically enhance your effectiveness throughout the day. Another subtle yet incredibly valuable outcome is the development of emotional discipline. This isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about cultivating a maturity that prevents them from running the show. When you learn to recognize your emotions without letting them dictate your actions, you become more resilient, more grounded, and far less susceptible to external pressures. This newfound stability doesn't go unnoticed by those around you. It's not because you seem invulnerable, but because you've mastered the art of navigating your inner world. Strengthening this discipline naturally enhances your decision-making abilities. Those who are emotionally unsteady tend to make choices that offer immediate relief. In contrast, those who possess emotional stability make decisions with a view toward long-term building. The difference may seem small, but it shapes entirely different life paths. Of course, this kind of capability doesn't emerge out of thin air. It's a direct consequence of the kind of information you allow into your mind each day. With this mental strengthening comes a greater sense of practical responsibility. You realize that while you can't control everything, you actually have far more influence than you might have initially believed. Armed with this understanding, you become adept at leveraging the resources you have at your disposal. your time, your attention, your energy, your talents. None of this relies on unrealistic promises. It's simply the natural outcome of choosing to cultivate your mindset. Keep absorbing these insights at your own pace. Every evening you dedicate to your inner world strengthens your capacity for clear thinking, purposeful action, and forward momentum. There's no rush here, only direction. As this internal process becomes a natural part of your life, you begin to develop a keener sense for the distinction between merely being busy and truly progressing. Many people are constantly occupied, but not actually moving forward. They do a lot, but they build little. Their days are filled with activity, yet their lives don't seem to inch closer to any meaningful goal. When you intentionally train your mind, you start to accurately differentiate between genuine progress and mere motion. This distinction fundamentally alters how you expend your energy. This newfound perspective also shifts your relationship with time. You stop seeing time as something to be filled and begin to treat it as a resource to be directed. You understand that every minute spent on distractions that offer no real benefit is a minute taken away from something that could genuinely enrich your life. This isn't about living rigidly or inflexibly. It's about acknowledging that time is the only resource you can never get back. And once you internalize that, your priorities naturally begin to reorder themselves. Another significant development is the strengthening of your self-awareness regarding your own capabilities. In the initial stages of change, it's common to underestimate your potential. However, as time goes on, you realize that much of what you perceived as a hard limit was simply a lack of development. This realization is incredibly liberating. It shows you that most of the barriers you thought you had to overcome were actually just old interpretations, not inherent limitations. When you swap interpretation for observation, your view of yourself becomes fairer and more accurate. This more precise vision also helps you follow through on your commitments with greater consistency. People who lack deep self-knowledge often struggle to sustain any long-term effort because they set expectations that are at odds with their own pace or reality. As you come to understand your mind more deeply, you adjust your expectations to a more attainable level, making the entire process far more sustainable. Discipline grows not under pressure, but through alignment. This mental alignment bolsters your ability to navigate uncertainty. Uncertainty will always be present. No strategy will completely eliminate it. What changes is your stance toward it. Instead of becoming paralyzed or overly dramatic, you begin to analyze opportunities, rationally assess risks, and move forward responsibly. This mature approach reduces emotional exhaustion and significantly boosts your practical effectiveness. Those who operate with clarity make better decisions, and this directly impacts the results they achieve. Over time, you'll also notice your mind becoming less susceptible to the opinions of others. This doesn't mean ignoring people. It means understanding that few individuals truly grasp what you are trying to build. Most people speak from their own limitations, not from your reality. As you strengthen your own mindset, you stop filtering your decisions through the fear of judgment and start filtering them through alignment with your goals. This shift liberates you to pursue paths you might have previously shied away from. Another profoundly beneficial effect is an increase in emotional stability. This isn't about lacking feelings, but about possessing balance. Your mind stops magnifying problems and begins to see them in perspective. This allows you to handle difficulties more effectively because you aren't wasting energy conjuring up non-existent scenarios. You deal with what's real, what's concrete, and what you can influence. This focus on what truly matters reduces anxiety and enhances your capacity for action. As this stability grows, so does your sense of self-worth. You begin to acknowledge your efforts, your progress, and your dedication without needing external validation. This internal recognition then naturally leads you to behave with greater confidence, assertiveness, and alignment with the person you aspire to be.
Those who cultivate this inner certainty transform how they interact with the world, shifting from acting out of need to acting out of purpose.
Continue to nourish your mind with these kinds of reflections. Each night you dedicate to this process strengthens your ability to act with clarity, approach life with maturity, and build outcomes that align with your identity rather than external expectations, fleeting illusions, or what truly resonates with you. As time unfolds, you'll begin to notice that this daily mental strengthening cultivates a quiet maturity within you. It's not something that appears suddenly, nor is it a dramatic transformation. In fact, it's almost imperceptible at first, but as the days accumulate, you'll find yourself handling challenges more equitably, thinking before reacting, and observing before concluding. This shift in your inner rhythm is one of the most apparent signs of genuine growth. And this growth, however modest, yields profoundly deep consequences. You become less impulsive and more strategic, less prone to wasting energy, and more inclined to act with intention. This intention manifests in small choices: what you decide to consume, where you direct your attention, what kind of thinking you feed, and what kind of environment you allow into your life. These are the details, but it is precisely these details that shape destinies. As your mind stabilizes, you develop a more nuanced sense of practical responsibility. You begin to understand that while you can't control everything that happens, you can control how you respond, how you organize yourself, and how you utilize the resources at your disposal. This realization completely transforms your outlook on your own life, as you stop waiting for perfect conditions and start working with what you have in the moment that you have it. This isn't resignation, it's clarity. This clarity also prompts you to confront your shortcomings more honestly, without punishing yourself for them. Instead of trying to hide weaknesses or mask mistakes, you begin to embrace each aspect needing improvement as an integral part of the process. And the moment you acknowledge your errors with maturity, you gain the power to transform them. No one changes what they continue to deny. Only what they dare to look at clearly can be transformed. This enhanced clarity, cultivated night after night, also strengthens your relationship with discipline. Discipline ceases to be an external imposition and becomes a natural consequence of your vision for the future. When you know who you aspire to become, and when you understand that the path requires consistency, discipline transforms from a burden into a choice. There's no internal struggle, only alignment. This alignment also influences how you interpret challenges. Rather than viewing difficulties as indicators of inability, you come to understand that they are part of the expansion process. Many of the obstacles you encounter today aren't trying to stop you. They're trying to prepare you. They test your patience, your perseverance, your ability to maintain focus amidst uncertainty. And when you realize this, you approach each challenge with greater awareness and less drama. Another crucial point is how you begin to view the concept of progress. Previously, you likely expected quick results, believing that significant achievements should come in leaps and bounds. Over time, however, you realize that true progress is incremental. It's the sum of small accomplishments, small decisions, small adjustments. And when you learn to value these tiny steps, you build a far more robust path than those who rely on fleeting bursts of motivation. This quiet consistency also reinforces a vital aspect of human thinking: mindful patience. This isn't passive waiting for something to fall from the sky, but conscious patience that understands everything has its rhythm and that real results require preparation, repetition, and maturity. This mindful patience prevents you from giving up too soon or being misled by unrealistic expectations. As this process unfolds, your mind also becomes less vulnerable to comparisons. You stop looking at others' paths as a mirror for your own life and begin to understand that every journey has its own rhythm, context, and struggles. This realization frees you from the invisible pressure that constant comparison brings, allowing you to concentrate on what truly matters in your own development at your own pace. And perhaps one of the most significant shifts is how you begin to see yourself. The more you strengthen yourself internally, the more you understand your capacity to handle your responsibilities, build your paths, and consciously adjust your decisions. This perception isn't arrogance, it's maturity. And it naturally grows when you feed your mind with information that uplifts, organizes, and orients, especially in moments of quiet. Continue to absorb, observe, and allow your mind to evolve in this constant rhythm. You are building something profound, something that doesn't depend on grand promises, but on awareness, consistency, and accountability. As the process solidifies, you start to notice a significant change in how you perceive unfolding events. Situations that once seemed overwhelming are now assessed more calmly. Problems that previously consumed your emotional energy become more objective and less threatening. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means your mind has developed the capacity to separate emotions from interpretation, and this separation is a milestone in the journey of anyone growing older. This new way of observing the world also awakens a deeper sense of autonomy. You stop waiting for something external to change before taking action. Instead, you understand that external shifts are, in many cases, the result of internal ones. This realization transforms your stance. You begin to act with greater initiative, more responsibility, and a clearer sense of purpose. You stop reacting to life and start steering it. This transition doesn't happen overnight, but it becomes inevitable when you consistently nourish your mind with clarity and reflection. Another valuable outcome of this process is the enhancement of your ability to keep promises made to yourself. Many people falter, not due to a lack of willpower, but because of internal misalignment. When your desires don't match your actions, you create friction that drains energy. But when you begin to internalize the principles of discipline, purpose, and responsibility, your actions start to align with your intentions. This coherence reduces internal conflict and strengthens your sense of control over your own life. Over time, you also become more adept at identifying the recurring cycles in your experiences. We all have patterns in our behavior, thinking, and reactions. Some are helpful, others are limiting. When you engage with structured content each evening, you create a clearer lens through which to view these patterns, and by identifying them, you place yourself in a position to transform them, not through pressure, but through understanding. Any true change begins when you comprehend the origin of what you wish to alter. This understanding also shifts your perspective on your own limitations. Instead of viewing them as final barriers, you begin to see them as starting points. Limits aren't verdicts, they're signposts. They reveal where your preparation needs development, where your knowledge needs expanding, and where your maturity is still taking shape. This realistic view lessens the emotional burden of failure and increases your capacity to persevere. You understand that no one is born fully formed, and that being in a state of development is not a weakness, but a natural condition for growth. As this mental maturity deepens, you also start to utilize your energy more wisely. Some individuals expend their strength fighting the inevitable, attempting to control what lies beyond their influence. A strengthened mind does the opposite. It directs its energy toward what can be changed and accepts what is beyond its reach. This distinction frees up mental space, reduces wear and tear, and expands your practical effectiveness. You act where your action is impactful, and this is crucial in the long run. Another significant aspect is that you begin to cultivate silence. Silence ceases to be a discomfort and becomes a tool. It becomes a space where thoughts organize, where perceptions take form, and where you can see yourself with greater honesty. In a world saturated with noise and acceleration, the person who learns to harness silence gains a rare advantage: the ability to think deeply before acting. This depth is one of the pillars of conscious prosperity. Simultaneously, you develop an inner stability that is not dependent on the approval of others. Emotionally fragile individuals tend to waver with their surroundings.
Emotionally stable individuals maintain their direction even when the environment is unpredictable. This stability is not a result of insensitivity, but of clarity. And this clarity is reinforced night after night as you feed your mind with words that organize, direct, and expand your perception. This process also automatically distances you from habits that pull you away from who you aspire to be. You don't need to forcefully change detrimental habits. Over time, unproductive behavior simply ceases to make sense. Your mind naturally begins to select actions that reinforce your purpose. It's as if, through the repetition of good ideas, you are solidifying a version of yourself that is clearer, more responsible, and more aware. And this version begins to guide your choices. Continue to absorb this content at a pace that makes sense for you. Each night further strengthens the inner structure you are building. And the stronger this structure becomes, the stronger and more stable you become.
As this internal process evolves, you'll begin to notice that your mind becomes more prepared to handle life's complexities. Not because things become simpler, but because you become more capable. Life doesn't demand perfection. It demands preparation. And when you consistently invest in your mental clarity, you develop this preparation naturally, without strain, without creating artificial expectations. Maturity arises from accumulated understanding, not isolated moments. This maturity also manifests in how you handle pressure. Previously, any intense situation might have seemed enough to throw you off balance. Now, you notice you can maintain a steady stance, even when circumstances aren't unfolding in your favor. This doesn't mean you stopped feeling. It means you've begun to view pressure as part of the journey. You understand that difficult moments don't invalidate your progress. They simply reveal how much you've already evolved emotionally. Your mind becomes less dependent on distractions. Many use distraction to avoid uncomfortable thoughts. When you consistently work on your mindset, you no longer need to escape. You learn to cope. This ability to face yourself without fear is a quiet, yet transformative achievement. It allows you to analyze your life with greater objectivity and act much more strategically, because you have no need to hide problems or postpone important decisions. This quiet clarity also enhances your adaptability. A strengthened mind doesn't resist change. It adjusts, not because it's overly flexible, but because it understands that excessive rigidity creates fragility. By listening to structured content, you expand your mental repertoire. The broader this repertoire becomes, the more your capacity to navigate new, challenging, or unexpected situations expands. Adaptation ceases to feel like a strenuous effort and instead transforms into an inherent competence. This ongoing process also diminishes your need to constantly prove yourself to others. The more you understand yourself, the less you require external validation. You begin to build your life based on internal alignment rather than the expectations of others, which lifts an enormous burden. You stop living to impress and start living to grow. This shift allows you to move forward with greater ease, focus, and authenticity. As this inner alignment strengthens, you also develop a better understanding of your emotions. Many people perceive emotions as something chaotic, unpredictable, and beyond control. However, when you train your mind in a structured way, you realize that an emotion is a signal, not a command. It points you in a direction, but it doesn't dictate your actions. This realization fundamentally alters your relationship with your feelings. Instead of battling what you feel, you begin to understand why you feel it. And this insight empowers you. Another profound effect of this process is the enhancement of your practical visualization skills. This isn't about fantasies or daydreams, but about realistic visualization. You start to see more clearly what you want to build and how you can achieve it. There's no magic involved.
It's simply the result of a mind that has begun to operate with greater clarity. When you have clarity, your vision for the future becomes more organized. When your vision is organized, your actions become more consistent, and this consistency generates results. With a clearer vision comes a distinct sense of direction. It's as if each night of reflection sheds more light on the path ahead. You don't see everything at once, nor should you. You see just enough to take the next step. You see enough to keep going. You see enough to know you're moving forward. This is the true power of mental clarity. It enables you to move forward without getting lost in the process. Here's another important point. You begin to understand that inner strength isn't something that suddenly appears. It's built gradually. Some days will be easier than others, and some will be more draining. At times, you'll feel incredibly capable, while at other moments, you might doubt yourself. And that's perfectly normal. Growth doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency. Consistency is precisely what you cultivate by nurturing your mind with deep reflection, day after day. As your awareness expands, you also start to assess your capabilities more realistically. This doesn't diminish you. Instead, it strengthens you. When you understand your boundaries, you stop underestimating or exaggerating them. You begin to work with them intelligently, progressing steadily and confidently, gradually expanding your abilities. This leads to sustainable progress, not just fleeting results. Continue to let these reflections seep into your inner calm. Each night spent in quiet contemplation deepens your mental stability, broadens your self-understanding, and fortifies the inner core that supports you through daily challenges. You are building maturity, and maturity is one of the most reliable forms of strength. As this practice becomes a steady routine, an interesting phenomenon emerges. You start to trust your own judgment more, not because you believe you know everything already, but because you are learning to think more accurately. A trained mind seeks understanding, not just instant answers. And this understanding arises when you begin to analyze situations more broadly, considering not just what you feel, but also what is real, possible, and strategically important. This internal shift prompts you to adopt a different stance towards your choices. Instead of acting impulsively, you begin to act with intention. Rather than yielding to what's easiest, you start considering what's right. Instead of making decisions based solely on immediate relief, you begin to make decisions based on their long-term impact. This change in your decision-making criteria redirects the course of your life because it channels your energy toward what truly fosters development. With this new perspective, you also start to view challenges differently. Many people see difficulties as obstacles, as unwelcome impediments in their path. But as your mind matures, you understand that problems are a natural part of any worthwhile endeavor. They are what hone your skills, expand your resilience, and reveal areas where your inner structure still needs strengthening. Facing these with clear comprehension reduces anxiety and enhances your ability to move forward without losing your balance. Another significant change is your growing ability to distinguish what deserves your concern from what doesn't. A strong mind doesn't waste energy on hypothetical scenarios or exaggerated fears. It learns to focus on what can be done, what is within your control, and what truly matters. This focused approach reduces mental fatigue and creates a sense of inner order that few people experience. When you stop reacting to everything and start responding only to what is important, your life gains greater stability and purpose. As you evolve, you also realize that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. This freedom is one of the most profound outcomes of mental growth. When you recognize that your worth isn't contingent on others' opinions, you become less vulnerable to destructive criticism and less dependent on superficial praise. Your confidence becomes an internal construction,
not an external dependency. This allows you to live more authentically, peacefully, and in alignment with your true values. Another important aspect that emerges from this process is the strengthening of your ability to accept reality as it is, without resignation or rebellion. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing clearly. And when you see clearly, you act more effectively. Conscious acceptance prevents the waste of emotional energy and allows you to focus your strength where it truly matters. This mature stance is a cornerstone of a balanced life. Furthermore, over time, you'll notice yourself becoming more selective emotionally. You naturally steer clear of situations that provoke unnecessary stress and tend to distance yourself from them without conflict or drama, simply with a quiet understanding that your energy is too precious to be squandered. This kind of discernment isn't pride, it's protection, and it's integral to building a mentally healthy life. This emotional frugality also enhances your capacity to direct your attention toward what truly matters. Attention is one of the most valuable currencies you possess, and many people fritter it away on constant distractions. As you train your mind, you realize that the quality of your life is directly linked to the quality of what you pay attention to. And when your attention is strategically directed, your results change proportionally. Yet another profound effect of this process is the ability to maintain stability even amidst uncertainty. Life offers no guarantees, but a prepared mind provides stability. You cannot control your environment, but you can control yourself. This distinction prevents you from being swept away by chaos, the emotions of others, or the manufactured urgencies of the external world. It is this inner stability that allows you to move forward consistently, even when everything around you seems unstable. And as you continue to strengthen your mind, a deeper understanding of purpose emerges. Not a romanticized purpose, but a realistic sense of direction. An understanding that your life is meant to lead somewhere, to have meaning, and that every choice, every habit, every thought contributes to that. Purpose doesn't arise suddenly. It unfolds as you become clearer, more organized, and more honest with yourself. This kind of reflection, each night, subtly deepens your ability to think clearly, act responsibly, and become someone who builds their life with intention rather than impulse. As you deepen this process, you'll notice your relationship with your own thoughts becoming more structured. Previously, your thoughts might have sprung up chaotically, competing for space and attention. Now, they seem to organize themselves into layers, allowing you to distinguish what's urgent from what's merely noise, what's important from what's just an old mental habit. This inner organization doesn't happen by accident. It's a direct consequence of the content you allow to fill your daily quietude. Over time, this mental organization leads you to a level of clarity few people experience. The clarity to see your own intentions with utmost precision. Often, we don't know exactly why we do what we do. We are driven by repetition, inherited patterns, external expectations. As you nourish your mind with reflection, you begin to discern what you truly want from what you've merely learned to want. This distinction is crucial because it separates an authentic life from one lived on autopilot. This quiet authenticity grants you freedom. Freedom to choose paths that resonate with you. Freedom to let go of what no longer serves you. Freedom to say no without guilt and yes without fear. This freedom arises not from rebellion, but from clarity. And the clearer you become, the less room there is for unnecessary regrets and decisions made under pressure. This inner strengthening also transforms your view of goals. Previously, you might have seen goals as distant, almost symbolic. Now you understand that they are built from small, daily steps. You recognize that every accomplishment, no matter how minor it may seem, creates a structure.
And it is this structure that underpins everything you strive to achieve. When you view goals as processes rather than events, you become far more consistent and far more patient. Another important aspect that begins to surface is the ability to honestly assess your own evolution. People who don't cultivate their minds tend to either judge themselves too harshly or deceive themselves too readily. Neither extreme is productive. When you train your thinking, you observe yourself with balance, acknowledging your mistakes without losing self-respect, and recognizing your achievements without becoming complacent. This balanced perspective is what sustains true growth. This balanced perspective awakens another crucial skill: the ability to adjust course without drama. Many people abandon goals, believing any deviation signifies failure. But as you mature emotionally, you understand that adjusting course is a natural part of the process. You don't need to give up, you need to correct. And this correction stems not from haste, but from understanding that every decision should align with who you have become, not just who you were when you started. Over time, you also notice that inner strength manifests not only in the ability to resist what weakens you, but also in the capacity to sustain what strengthens you. Consistency in good habits, the maintenance of positive thoughts, the protection of your energy, and a focus on what's important, all require strength. And this strength grows as you consciously develop your mind through reflection and accountability. As your inner structure becomes more robust, you naturally gain greater emotional stability. This stability allows you to make wiser decisions, assess situations more objectively, and handle challenges with less effort. Not because the difficulties have lessened, but because you have grown beyond them. The proportions shift, perception changes, and when perception changes, the emotional impact does too. Your way of using words transforms. Your speech becomes clearer, more direct, and more purposeful. You begin to grasp the weight of words and the importance of how you articulate your ideas. A muddled mind speaks muddledly. An organized mind speaks precisely. And this precision creates a stronger, more respected, and more consistent presence. As this depth grows, you also notice changes in the quality of your relationships. You connect better with people who share similar principles and naturally gravitate away from environments that drain your energy. This doesn't require effort. It's simply a consequence of your mental maturity. You start to choose relationships that enhance your journey, rather than those that pull you into dilemmas that no longer align with who you are becoming. Continue to absorb these reflections. Each nugget of understanding subtly strengthens your mindset and expands your capacity to build a stable, intentional, and consistent life, without illusions, without exaggeration, and without shortcuts. Only clarity, consistency, and real growth. As this process of inner strengthening deepens, you begin to notice significant shifts in your ability to interpret the past. Events that might have once seemed entirely negative are now viewed with greater context. You start to understand that many of the difficulties you faced weren't intended to harm you, but to highlight areas that needed development. This change in perspective doesn't alter what happened, but it transforms the meaning you assign to your experiences. And when meaning changes, the emotional weight does too. With this new interpretation, you realize you no longer need to carry all your mistakes as if they were proof of your inadequacy. You begin to acknowledge that much of your success only became possible because you navigated situations that demanded maturity. This doesn't romanticize suffering. It simply places each experience within a broader, more honest context. And this honesty liberates you from the cycle of excessive self-criticism that keeps so many people trapped in the past. Another important transformation occurs in how you handle expectations. Previously, you might have held rigid ideas about where you should be, what you should have achieved, or how your life ought to unfold. As you strengthen your mind, these expectations cease to be shackles
and become guideposts. You understand that there isn't one single path or one single pace. Everyone has their own journey with its own timing and its own needs. This reduction in pressure enhances your ability to act wisely. This reduction in pressure creates space for a quieter, yet far more consistent kind of courage. This isn't theatrical bravery based on impulse or motivational slogans. It's the courage to make difficult decisions without dramatization, to take responsibility without becoming a victim, and to keep moving forward even when progress isn't obvious. This understated courage is one of the most striking characteristics of emotionally mature individuals. As you cultivate this courage, you also begin to better appreciate the value of small victories. Instead of waiting only for grand moments of achievement, you start valuing every step forward, every right choice. Every day you are a little more patient, a little more disciplined, a little more aware. These small victories are the building blocks of real progress. And as you learn to see them, you develop a more stable motivation because it ceases to depend on external outcomes and begins to rely on your own observation of progress. Another key aspect that strengthens within this process is your ability to recognize what no longer aligns with who you are becoming. There are habits that wear out, relationships that run dry, environments that cease to make sense. In the past, you might have clung to them out of fear of change, attachment, or a lack of clarity.
Now, you understand that some things must be left behind for others to flourish. This realization doesn't create a void, it creates space. And it is in this space that new possibilities can emerge. This inner space also strengthens your ability to set boundaries. Setting boundaries isn't about rejecting people or situations, but about protecting your energy, your time, and your emotional integrity. As your mind becomes more organized, you start to recognize when something is crossing a healthy boundary for you. And instead of letting it fester, you act with maturity. You adjust, you communicate, you withdraw, or you reorganize. This ability to calmly establish boundaries is a hallmark of someone who knows who they are and what they are unwilling to accept. As this identity crystallizes, you begin to notice a difference in how you position yourself before opportunities. Previously, you might have hesitated, waiting for guarantees. Now, you understand that no opportunity comes with absolute certainty. There is preparation. When you are internally ready, you act, knowing that even if something doesn't go as expected, you will have the framework to adjust. This stance reduces fear and increases your ability to move forward. This reduction in fear also brings you closer to a deeper sense of authenticity. You no longer need to mold yourself to others' expectations or alter your ambitions to please those who don't live your reality. You begin to act in accordance with your inner truth, not impulsively, but intentionally. And when you act in accordance with this truth, your life becomes more consistent, more stable, and more meaningful. Another effect of this process is the refinement of your rational intuition, that perception that arises not from haste, but from accumulated experience. Your mind begins to connect dots that were previously scattered. You notice patterns, identify trends, and foresee what's likely to happen next with increasing speed.
This ability to anticipate is not mystical. It is the fruit of a mind that has learned to think calmly and deeply. Continue to nurture this growth. Every reflection adds another layer to your maturity, and this maturity expands your capacity to handle challenges, make decisions, and build a life that genuinely reflects who you truly wish to be. As you continue to invest in this inner process, a sharper understanding of your habits' impact on your life begins to emerge. Before, habits were simply automatic, repetitive behaviors devoid of reflection. Now, you start to see them as structures that either support or undermine your well-being. This awareness transforms your daily conduct. You begin to observe what you do, why you do it, and how it reflects on your choices. And as this observation becomes constant, changing habits ceases to be an insurmountable task and becomes a logical consequence of your development. This shift also enhances your ability to act even in the face of emotional difficulties. Many people believe they need to be in a good mood to perform well. But as you mature mentally, you understand that emotional states don't have to dictate your actions. You learn to act responsibly even on tough days, because you realize that consistency hinges not on perfection, but on commitment. This ability to act without waiting for the perfect moment is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. Over time, you'll also start to notice a strengthening of your inner sense of self-reliance. This doesn't mean becoming isolated or believing you don't need anyone, but rather recognizing that the foundation of your stability lies within you. As your mind becomes more accustomed to thinking clearly, you'll find yourself less inclined to blame external circumstances for everything that happens. Instead, you'll begin to embrace greater responsibility for the aspects of life that are truly within your control. This shift profoundly reduces feelings of powerlessness and cultivates a much stronger sense of inner command. And, as this feeling of control grows, your relationship with the future quietly but deeply transforms. What once felt like a daunting unknown gradually becomes an open expanse, an opportunity to be shaped, explored, and navigated with confidence. You come to understand that while you can't control every outcome, you absolutely can steer the direction. And when you're in charge of the direction, the future ceases to be a burden and instead transforms into a horizon brimming with possibility. Another significant development is the cultivation of a more grounded patience. This isn't the passive waiting that expects things to happen without effort, but a thoughtful patience that understands genuine progress naturally takes time. This kind of patience shields you from rash decisions and the disappointment that arises when immediate results aren't forthcoming. It's this structured patience that empowers you to keep moving forward, even when progress seems imperceptible, because you recognize that consistent effort ultimately outshines fleeting intensity. As this sense of perseverance solidifies, you also start to discern more clearly which environments nurture your best self and which detract from it. This clarity of perception is one of the most valuable gifts of a well-trained mind. You'll find yourself naturally disengaging from situations that no longer serve you, redirecting your energy towards those that foster your growth. This isn't a forced selection, but a graceful, organic process that unfolds as your vision becomes sharper and more refined. This newfound subtlety in your outlook also impacts how you view your relationships. You'll move away from seeking superficial connections based on convenience or habit, and instead gravitate towards those that genuinely enrich, inspire, and contribute to your emotional and intellectual development. More mature connections thrive on presence, accountability, and mutual respect. And when your mind is in a good place, you'll naturally offer these qualities to others and expect the same in return, all without fear or unnecessary drama. Furthermore, your capacity to maintain inner calm, even amidst the most chaotic situations, will grow. In the past, external problems might have immediately become internal ones. Now, you begin to realize you can remain unruffled, even when a storm rages around you. This ability stems not from denial, but from an inner fortitude. When your mental framework is robust, challenges no longer dictate your emotional state. They transform into solvable tasks rather than threats to your equilibrium. As this inner peace expands, you'll also observe that your productivity shifts from being driven by pressure to being grounded in clarity. So many people push themselves to achieve more by mentally overexerting themselves. But as you train your mind, you understand that true productivity blossoms from clarity.
When you possess a clear understanding of what needs to be done, why it matters, and how to accomplish it, you produce more, not through sheer force, but through the quality of your intent. This quality of intention leads you to a crucial realization. Your life doesn't have to be dictated by urgency. Most people are constantly putting out fires, trying to catch up and reacting to emerging problems. However, as you fortify your mind, you begin to plan with a greater sense of calm. You anticipate challenges, not to avoid them entirely, but to address them decisively and with organization. This significantly reduces stress, enhances effectiveness, and broadens your sense of control. Keep nurturing this process. Every moment dedicated to thoughtful reflection strengthens your ability to analyze, make sound decisions, and act wisely.
You are not just building understanding, you are constructing a framework. And a solid framework is the bedrock of all growth, both internal and external. As your mind gains strength through this practice of reflection, you'll develop a rare skill, the ability to see your life as an interconnected system. You'll grasp that nothing exists in isolation. Your thoughts influence your actions, your emotions shape your thoughts, and your habits impact everything simultaneously. This systemic perspective brings a maturity that transforms your approach to challenges, freeing you from the idea that any single factor determines your destiny. When you view your life as a system, you begin to appreciate how even small adjustments over time can lead to significant transformations. This isn't about waiting for miracles, but about recognizing the cumulative power of daily, often unnoticed adjustments. You'll start to see how the way you wake up, how you structure your day, how you manage your time, how you respond to frustration, and how you nourish your mind all contribute to a cycle that defines your clarity and productivity. And as you refine this cycle, your effectiveness undergoes a profound metamorphosis. Another crucial change that emerges from this process is your enhanced ability to pinpoint internal conflicts. Previously, many of these conflicts might have surfaced simply as irritation, fatigue, anxiety, or procrastination. Now, you begin to recognize the root causes of these feelings. Instead of merely experiencing them, you understand them. And this understanding diminishes their intensity as you stop viewing them as insurmountable obstacles and start seeing them as valuable information. A mature mind transforms discomfort into data, and data can be analyzed and adjusted. This emotional maturity also fortifies your resilience in adapting to life's inevitable changes.
While many may falter in the face of the unexpected, you begin to see it as an inherent part of the journey. This doesn't eliminate difficulties, but it significantly lessens their emotional impact. You learn to breathe, analyze, and act, rather than simply reacting. This capability provides an advantage in any situation, as you become someone dependable, steady, and difficult to destabilize. Over time, another quiet transformation takes place. You begin to appreciate unseen progress. The visible progress, the kind the world acknowledges, is only a fraction of true growth. It's the invisible progress, the advancements in your thoughts, your posture, your inner discipline that truly sustains all outward achievements. And by consistently nurturing your mind, you learn to value this unseen progress that underpins everything others notice. This appreciation for the invisible also reshapes your perspective on comparison. Perhaps before, you measured your worth against others' timelines, feeling behind or pressured by external benchmarks. Now, your benchmark becomes internal. Your focus shifts from surpassing others to surpassing your previous self. This creates a profound stability as you begin to move at your own pace, making choices that align with your authentic needs. This inner stability also empowers you to confront areas of your life you previously avoided.
We often shy away from certain topics because, deep down, we know they require changes we're not yet ready for. As your mind matures, this fear diminishes. You approach what needs adjustment with a sense of responsibility, without fleeing, delaying, or dramatizing. This quiet courage is one of the most evident signs of a strengthened mind. Another vital aspect that emerges is a deeper sense of authenticity. You stop molding yourself to external expectations and begin constructing a life that truly reflects who you are. This doesn't mean dismissing opinions, but filtering them. It means accepting advice without losing yourself. It means listening without submitting. This robust authenticity fosters a sense of freedom that is independent of external circumstances. It arises from within. As this authenticity deepens, you'll also find yourself acting with greater purpose. Intention, when aligned with mental clarity, transforms into direction. You stop expending energy on things that don't contribute to your future and begin channeling it towards what truly matters. Intention replaces uncertainty, and direction supplants scattered focus. And through this, you start achieving more while expending less energy. A further profound effect of this process is an improved tolerance for frustration. Frustration ceases to be seen as a sign of inadequacy and begins to be viewed as a natural part of the journey. This lessens the emotional burden of temporary setbacks and enhances your persistence. You come to understand that making mistakes doesn't equate to failure. It's an opportunity to learn. A trained mind doesn't crumble in the face of error. It adjusts its course and presses onward. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to realize that personal growth isn't an event, but a continuous process. It's this ongoing, quiet, disciplined process that transforms you into a person who is clearer, more resilient, better prepared, and more harmoniously aligned with life. A life built consciously, not haphazardly. As this process continues, you'll notice your relationship with your own motivation becoming more realistic and mature. Previously, you might have relied on bursts of enthusiasm to act. Now, you understand that enthusiasm is merely a spark, not the foundation. A mature mind doesn't wait for motivation to do what's necessary. It understands that motivation is fleeting, but commitment is steadfast. And when you act based on commitment rather than impulse, your life reaches a new level. These shifts profoundly influence how you handle your responsibilities. Instead of procrastinating, you begin to approach them naturally. Instead of avoiding what troubles you, you start addressing it objectively. This behavior arises not from rigidity, but from clarity. When your mind is ordered from within, tasks cease to be threats and become simply parts of the path. Fear diminishes, resistance lessens, and effectiveness increases. As this mental state strengthens, you develop a more accurate ability to assess the long-term perspective. Most people live by reacting to the short term, the immediate discomfort, the minor urgencies. Emotions are fickle. When you consistently train your mind, you begin to see the impact of your choices beyond the present moment. And this changes everything. Your decisions become wiser because they are shaped not only by momentary emotion, but also by the consequences you can now clearly foresee. And this clarity fosters a self-trust that doesn't rely on praise, immediate results, or external approval. It's a quiet confidence, built on practice, reinforced by discipline, and cemented by repeating the right choices. This kind of trust isn't displayed, it's embodied, and it manifests in your posture, your voice, your actions, and the way you conduct your life. Such individuals don't need validation, they prove themselves through consistency. As this maturation progresses, you'll also notice your emotional energy becoming more stable. This doesn't mean you cease to feel irritation, frustration, or fatigue. It means these states no longer dictate your life.
they pass, and you remain. What once might have been a negative event spoiling your mood for hours or even days now sees you regaining your equilibrium more swiftly, because you understand that intense emotions aren't commands, but simply information, and you learn to treat them as such.
This emotional stability also makes you more resilient in the face of loss, failure, or disappointment. An immature mind interprets every setback as a threat to its own worth. A mature mind views difficulties as temporary challenges, a natural part of achieving any meaningful goal. This difference in perspective entirely shifts how you respond to each fall, because a fall ceases to be defined as an end and begins to be defined as a stage. Over time, another profound change occurs. You develop a greater sense of presence. Instead of being mentally stuck in the past or constantly projecting into the future, you begin to experience the present moment with greater awareness. This doesn't mean living without planning, but living with attention. When your mind is present in what you're doing, your effectiveness increases, your anxiety decreases, and your clarity grows. Presence makes your actions more impactful and your mind lighter. This presence also helps you notice details that might have previously escaped you. How you breathe, how you communicate, how you react to minor stresses, the type of thought that arises before each decision. When you gain sensitivity to these micro-processes within yourself, you become capable of adjusting your behavior before it escalates into more significant issues. This is applied maturity, built precisely in this space of quiet observation. As this observation deepens, you realize another essential truth. Much of human suffering stems not from facts, but from the interpretation of those facts. When your mind is chaotic, any difficulty seems magnified. But when your mind is orderly, the difficulty retains its actual size, and so do you. It is this correct ratio between the problem and your consciousness that distinguishes the one who despairs from the one who resolves. And as this ratio stabilizes within you, your life begins to be governed by choices, not impulses. The difference is immense. Impulses push you, choices guide you. Impulses exhaust you, choices orient you. Impulses deplete you, choices strengthen you. And this inner control arises not by magic, but by the conscious repetition of thoughts that organize rather than confuse. Continue to allow this process to deepen. Each layer of understanding you now absorb would become part of your way of thinking, decision-making, and acting moving forward. You are not just listening to information, you are building an internal structure, and a structure is what underpins any great transformation. As you advance in this process of inner strengthening, you'll notice a fundamental ability begin to develop, the capacity to recognize when your mind is attempting to sabotage you. Every individual at some point encounters thoughts that undermine their discipline, question their worth, or try to justify behavior that doesn't foster a solid future. Previously, these thoughts were automatically accepted as absolute truth. Now, you begin to see them as noise that doesn't deserve dominion over your life. This ability to distinguish thought from reality completely reshapes your relationship with self-criticism. You stop viewing every inner struggle as a personal failure and begin to see it as part of the mind's natural functioning. You understand that negative thoughts aren't verdicts, but simply signals that something needs reorganizing, adjusting, or reinforcing. And by understanding this, you diminish the power of these inner voices and amplify the strength of your rational, conscious stance. Over time, this conscious stance extends to other areas. You start to analyze the origins of your decisions more deeply. Every action, every choice, every behavior ceases to be automatic. You begin to ask, does this bring me closer to the life I want to build, or does it move me away from it?
And this simple question creates clarity where confusion once reigned.
It eliminates waste, corrects deviations, and reinforces your ability to maintain focus. This clarity also reduces your tendency to dramatize situations. When the mind is immature, every small problem feels like a huge risk. When the mind matures, it gains perspective. Perspective is the ability to see the real size of every challenge. And when you put challenges into their proper proportion, you stop expending excessive energy on situations that don't demand that much from you. Life becomes easier, not because problems disappear, but because you stop magnifying them. As this level-headedness grows, you also become more attuned to the importance of an internal rhythm. Many believe that achieving results requires living at a frantic pace. An organized mind thinks differently. It knows that consistency matters more than speed, that perseverance is more valuable than temporary intensity, and that when you honor your rhythm, you produce more and tire less. The balance between action and rest becomes natural, not forced. This balance helps you realize something crucial. Discipline isn't rigidity. Discipline is direction. The rigid person attempts to control everything. The disciplined person controls what matters. As you strengthen your thinking, it becomes easier to differentiate these two. You stop demanding the irrational from yourself and begin committing to the rational. You don't exhaust yourself trying to be perfect. You dedicate yourself to progress. And this consistency is the key that unlocks all doors of advancement. Another quiet transformation occurs in your perception of time. Previously, you might have constantly felt behind, comparing your journey to unrealistic expectations. As your mind matures, this feeling diminishes. You understand that everyone has their own developmental cycle, and that true growth happens not under external pressure, but from internal understanding. This understanding reduces anxiety and enhances your ability to act in the present moment. Over time, you'll also notice yourself thinking more strategically. You stop reacting to what happens to you and begin anticipating moves. This isn't the result of guesswork, but the fruit of clarity. When you think in an ordered manner, you see patterns, identify risks, recognize opportunities, and plan more wisely. This strategic capability is one of the cornerstones of true flourishing, not the kind fueled by fantasy, but the kind built on a solid mental structure. Another aspect that strengthens is your ability to protect your energy. Previously, you might have drained yourself in pointless arguments, tried to persuade those unwilling to listen, or persisted in situations that were already exhausted. Now, you quickly recognize what isn't worth your time, attention, or peace. And when you recognize it, you simply step away, without guilt, aggression, or the need for justification. This emotional self-protection conserves your strength for what truly matters. As this maturity grows, you also notice yourself communicating with greater clarity. Your speech becomes more objective, calmer, and more precise. You don't waste words, dramatize, or shrink back. You speak with firmness, but without arrogance, with conviction, but without imposition. This communicative power arises naturally when your mind is in order, because words reflect thought. And as you continue to nourish your mind with content that uplifts, you'll find that what once seemed complex begins to make sense, not because it has become simpler, but because you have become better equipped. Life doesn't suddenly become easier, you become more capable. You are becoming stronger, more aware, and more capable. Keep nurturing this awareness night after night. With each layer of understanding you build, your inner world becomes more stable. And as your inner world transforms, everything around you begins to shift as well. As you delve deeper into this journey of inner fortification, a new realization starts to emerge. It's the understanding that much of your life has always been within your control.
even when you weren't consciously aware of it. So often, you may have believed that your limitations were fixed, that your circumstances dictated your future, or that your emotions were simply uncontrollable forces acting upon you. But as your mind matures, you begin to see that many things that seemed immutable were simply unexamined, unanalyzed, or unstructured. This dawning recognition offers something incredibly valuable: psychological autonomy. Psychological autonomy isn't about rebellion, isolation, or trying to prove your strength to the world. Instead, it's the capacity to function from within, independent of external chaos. It's about maintaining your direction when faced with turbulence and preserving your own clarity even when everything around you seems muddled. This autonomy arises when you realize that while you can't control everything that happens, you absolutely can control your way of thinking. And that realization, in itself, changes everything. With this autonomy comes a fresh perspective on discipline. Before, discipline might have felt like a heavy burden, almost a form of punishment. Now, it reveals itself as a powerful tool. Discipline is simply the practical expression of your clarity. When you understand why you're doing something and grasp the long-term impact of your choices, discipline transforms from a sacrifice into a natural alignment. And when there's harmony between what you think, what you feel, and what you do, every path forward becomes smoother. This alignment also enhances your ability to stay focused. For many, focus is a constant battle against distractions. But as you strengthen your mind, focus shifts from being a struggle to becoming a natural consequence. A mature mind doesn't waste time on things that don't serve its purpose, because it clearly understands the cost of every distraction. You'll find yourself recognizing the value of the most ordinary yet significant tasks, and then you'll wholeheartedly immerse yourself in them, performing them with complete dedication, free from any internal resistance. This combination of clear understanding and full presence fundamentally reshapes everything you do. As this clarity grows, so does a more resilient emotional self-awareness. Previously, you might have reacted to your feelings as if you had no other option, as if emotions held absolute sway over you. Now, you learn to observe your experiences as natural phenomena, understanding that they don't possess absolute power over your actions. This observational capacity allows you to navigate even the most intense emotional storms without losing yourself. You feel, but you don't drown. You are aware, but you don't become paralyzed. You continue to think, even when experiencing strong emotions. And this, truly, is a hallmark of deep maturity. This maturity, in turn, brings you closer to another essential skill: the ability to adapt to circumstances without compromising your inner core. Adapting doesn't mean giving up on yourself or your core beliefs. It means skillfully adjusting your approach so that your decisions remain aligned with your values, even when the external landscape shifts dramatically. Those who mature spiritually learn to find balance without losing themselves. They hold firm to their inner compass, while simultaneously fine-tuning their actions to suit the situation. It is this kind of conscious flexibility that is a clear indicator of a robust and well-balanced psyche. Another area that strengthens through this process is your capacity to filter out unnecessary influences. In the past, any external opinion, criticism, or casual remark could disrupt your emotional equilibrium. Now, you begin to assess the source of these opinions before taking them to heart. You start to recognize that not everything that comes your way warrants your attention, that not every piece of advice is truly helpful, and that not all criticism is fair. This internal filter protects your energy and prevents superficial or damaging perspectives from cluttering your mind. Over time, you'll also notice a shift in your attitude towards effort. Effort ceases to be synonymous with exhaustion and begins to be perceived as an integral part of creating something meaningful.
You understand that sustained progress is impossible without a certain degree of discomfort, but this discomfort no longer intimidates you, as your mind is now prepared to meet it consciously. Effort transforms from a heavy burden into a bridge leading you toward your goals. This new perspective opens up yet another important capability: finding meaning, even in the most mundane aspects of life. Many believe that true meaning resides only in grand events, momentous decisions, or significant achievements. However, as your consciousness expands, you realize that meaning also exists in the small things. It's present in how you converse with others, how you approach your work, how you plan your day, and how you respond to minor setbacks. Recognizing this, you understand that your life isn't defined by a single pivotal moment, but by the way you live each of your days. This mindful living in each moment also broadens your sense of responsibility for your own well-being. You begin to grasp that certain emotional pains won't simply fade away, and that specific behavioral patterns require ongoing attention and care. Instead of waiting for time to sort things out, you begin to take action. And this action isn't impulsive, it's strategic. It's a form of self-care that stems from mental clarity rather than an urge to escape problems. Continue to absorb this depth.
Each new level of understanding you are currently building fortifies your ability to face whatever lies ahead with unshakable equilibrium, maturity, and clear intention. After this quiet process of inner strengthening, it becomes impossible to ignore a profound truth. You have changed. This transformation didn't happen because you stumbled upon a hidden secret, received a magical formula, or because someone else did the work for you. You changed because, each night, you made the conscious decision to nourish your mind with clarity, awareness, and deep understanding. And your mind responds to such nourishment. It reorganizes itself, it matures, it becomes more stable. This transformation isn't instantaneous. It doesn't happen overnight. It unfolds in the details. It's visible in how you breathe when faced with a challenge, in how you choose what to fight for, and in how you direct your actions. It shows when you realize that you think differently today than you did yesterday, when you notice that your reactions are no longer automatic, and when you understand that your silence has become deeper and your gaze more confident. What you are creating now is a foundation, and a foundation is what supports any growing organism, any developing life. A structured mind handles challenges better, makes more responsible decisions, and maintains focus even when the world around loses its bearings. A structured mind doesn't sabotage itself, undermine itself, or diminish itself. It evolves at its own pace, consistently, logically, and with purpose. And it is this consistency, far more than any promises, that is the true engine of change. Because when you think better, you make better decisions. When you make better decisions, you act better. And when you act better, your life transforms. This doesn't happen by chance or by luck, but through awareness. And this is precisely what this process awakens: the realization of who you can become by developing your mind responsibly. Everything you've heard doesn't end with the last sound. In fact, it's precisely after the recording concludes that the content begins its work. Each idea starts to operate within you, rearranging old beliefs, adjusting your perception, and expanding your vision of what you can build. And in time, you'll realize that the true turning point wasn't a specific moment, but the daily decision to strengthen your mind. The decision to grow quietly, consistently, and consciously. You are building something solid, something no one can take away, something that grows from the inside out. And it is this kind of growth that sustains all that is truly valuable in life. Keep moving forward, not in haste, but with awareness,
not with unrealistic expectations, but with maturity. Not by expecting life to change on its own, but by choosing to be a person capable of changing your own life. Ultimately, this is what distinguishes those who merely dream from those who genuinely build.